This is
Up
for Grabs, a podcast where three unfiltered friends talk about anything and everything. And now, here are your hosts, Tracy, Kim, and Rachel.
Welcome to Up for Grabs. I'm Rachel here with my crime-fighting friends Kim.
Hello.
And Tracy.
Hello.
I say crime-fighting because today on Up for Grabs we are going to do our second true crime podcast. Kim and Tracy are huge true crime aficionados. They don't love the crime. I don't want to say that you love the crime.
No, I love the process of that they go through figuring it out. That's fascinating.
Okay. Because I was trying to think of like something that I could call you something clever like Rizzoli and Isles or well, Cagney and Lacey. Are there other two? Nancy Drew and her friend. Did Nancy Drew have a
The Hardy
friend?
Boys?
I like.
They're not boys.
I like Cagney and Lacey.
Do you?
Well, isn't Rizzoli and Isles a boy and a girl too?
No, it was two girls.
I never even heard of those people. Are you making that up?
I'm not. Okay, Rob watched. He might be the only person in America that's ever watched Rizzoli and Isles, and every once in a while, he might make me watch it, and it's unwatchable. It's so bad. It's
Never
that
heard of
not Jenny, whatever Harmon, Angie Harmon.
Oh,
and she can't act her way out of a paper
Oh,
bag.
wait, I might have seen an episode because I saw her flipping through. She's pretty, though.
I don't care. She's a terrible actress.
Well, your husband's watching because she's pretty.
Well, now I feel terrible about myself. So anyway, today on Up for Grabs, we're going to discuss true crime, and we're going to discuss a case that is very much in the news here in Indiana because it took place, and it is the Delphi Murders is what they're calling it. And I'm going to let my first crime fighter, Kim, give us just kind of the backdrop of it all, and then Tracy's going to go into what may or may not be new in terms of evidence found, etc. So,
Okay.
Kim, do you want to take it away and tell us about what we need to know about that?
So I'm just going to go. I kind of just did a basic timeline, just to, if you don't know about the murders or if you don't know the details, this just kind of gives you a good overview of what happened. So it helped. These two girls that were killed are from Delphi, Indiana. So it's been huge here in the state of Indiana. It happened on Monday, February 13th of 2017.
Yes.
So it hasn't really been that long ago. The two
5
girls,
years, though. That's a long time. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it depending on how you're looking at it. 5
Yeah.
years is a long time when
To
you're waiting
not
on
be
someone
solved.
to find your murder. But it's also like not a historical case.
yes.
That's what you mean. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. So the two girls that we're talking about are Liberty German. She was 14 years old, and Abigail Williams, who was 13 years old. And they both are from Delphi, Indiana, and we're best friends. So, so this is just kind of the timeline of how it started out on that day, on the 13th of February. The girls had spent the night with each other. And the next morning, they were at Liberty's grandmother's house, and they asked if they could go to the Monon High Bridge Trail. And this is a popular trail in Delphi, Indiana. It's kind of considered a local hangout for teens. It's kind of got the old tracks that you can walk over.
Like train trellis? Is that a trellis?
Like train trellis
Yeah.
that you can walk over. And both the girls were very familiar with that area. And you might say, well, did they want to go to a trail in the middle of February? But it was like unseasonably warm. It was a beautiful day. They were off school.
Which that was one thing when I was looking up that I didn't understand that they were off. Someone said for a snow day, but I'm like, how do you have a snow day when there's no snow? I don't understand. So maybe it was like a scheduled snow day that they didn't
I think
need.
it might have been. I mean,
I didn't understand that part.
It was, I don't know the reason that they were off school.
Okay.
It could have been just like a teacher service day or whatever,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it was
Doesn't
beautiful.
matter,
It was
but-
beautiful that day.
Right.
And they loved to take pictures and they loved to, it was just a popular area. So,
Yeah.
but it was a Monday as well. So it wasn't very populated that day either. So, Liberty's older sister dropped them off at the trail, and Liberty's dad had intended on picking them up from the trail. He was out doing some photography work, and he said that he would text them when he was on his way back and that they could meet him. So at approximately 1:40, the girls arrived at the trail. And at 2:05 p.m., Liberty uploaded a picture of Snapchat of the Monon Bridge. So they at least know that they were there and that they got to the trail and that they were on the bridge. At 2:07, she uploads another picture of her friend Abbie walking on the bridge. And when I was looking at this online, it was like, a picture like they were trying to be, artsy and, taking a picture and turning around and uploaded it to Snapchat. So at an unknown time, after the two photos were posted, Liberty starts taking a video. And it's mostly just girl talk at the beginning. And then the girls mention that they notice a man. And so, according to the audio snippet from the video recording, at some point, the man says, "Guys, down the hill." And if you're familiar with this case, you're familiar with that clip.
Oh, I have chills right now because it's so creepy.
So investigators, once they received the knowledge that there was a video and that there was this snippet, it became obvious that the girls, that at least Liberty, now Abbie did not have a cell phone with her, but that Liberty was concerned and that she was documenting it. It's unknown how much video footage is out there because the police only released 11 seconds. I mean, that's all it was.
And wasn't it just audio?
And it was, well, they did have
finally share just a little bitty tiny bit
it's
of
video and audio. I mean, there is video. Now, the different things that I've read and the different podcasts that I've listened to stated that there was nothing recorded of the attack. There was nothing that substantial enough to release that they felt like it would make any difference in the investigation. But that they did have a very grainy video of a man walking in his voice saying, "Guys, down the hill." And it is creepy. I mean, it is.
I've heard the audio.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So, so this video clip was played over and over and over. So around 3:11 p.m. So we're still on the, we went from 2:00 with the Snapchat pictures, a little after 2:00 with the video and the audio. And then at 3:11 p.m., Libby's dad called her intending to tell him that he was on his way and that they should start heading back to where they were going to get picked up. It rang, but no one picked it up. He texted a couple times, no one picked up, no answer. So at 3:14, Derek, who is Libby's dad, arrives to the spot to see where the girls are, and he parks his car and he starts looking for them because he's concerned. Where are they? Why aren't they picking up?
Probably aggravated. Like, let's go. You were supposed to be here. You know what I mean? That's typical.
Definitely thinking, you know what? Her cell probably died, whatever. So at 4 p.m., Derek returns to his car and he starts calling family. So he calls his wife and he calls a couple other family members, and they are all trying to reach her with no luck whatsoever. So they're concerned. They show up at the trail. They kind of look for the girls. They're not getting anywhere. So at 5:20 p.m., the family finally calls the police and reports the girls as missing.
I totally get that, though, because you don't want to overreact. I mean, as a parent, there's been times that I don't know where my kids are, and that panic is real. Mm-hmm. But I would be like, it's fine. I'm sure there's just a misunderstanding. I'm sure.
And you think, at what point do I panic? At what point is it okay to call in resources or even call another parent?
Right.
There's that thing where you don't want to out your kid for doing something stupid and let everybody know. So, you kind of cover it, and then you're like, shit, what do I do?
Yeah, and they were, and I didn't add all this to it because I could tell you 3 hours of information. So the girls, both the families are, eventually they did not have trouble, but they did have they were trying to get a hold of Abbie's family, trying to get a hold of her mom. And there's a lot of different family members. There's grandparents involved in family members. And I didn't want to go into all that because honestly, it has nothing to do with the guts of the case.
Right.
Eventually, 2 hours passed. Hey, we don't know where the girls are. This is weird. Nobody's answering a phone. So at 5:20, the police get involved.
Gotcha.
And they start to search. So at 6 p.m., a massive search begins. Family members show up, friends show up. I mean, everybody's just on the ground trying to find the girls. About midnight, they called it off. They were like, it's dark, it's dangerous. We're not going to do anything right now. We'll start at dawn. Well, by 4 a.m., it's out. The news crews are showing up at the site. Social media has been informed. There's been I think one of the, sisters and different family members are putting stuff out there on YouTube. They're putting pictures. So by 4 p.m., everything is out and everything is crazy. So at 2 p.m., okay, so sorry, I need to back myself up a little bit. So they started the search the next day. Same thing. Everybody's out there. The police are out there. They have dogs out there, telling if you see anything, if you find anything, don't touch anything. So that goes on. So we're on to the 14th. So Valentine's Day. So at 2 p.m. on the 14th, police do hold a press conference and they let everyone know that 2 bodies have been found, but they don't want to confirm the identities. So they kind of did that because they needed to do the autopsies, and obviously everybody knew, I'm sure and I'm sure the family members knew and all that. I didn't go into detail on who found them and how they found them or whatever. I think some of the searchers were.
Where were they? Were they in the water?
They were close to the water.
Okay.
They were close to like an edge of a riverbank.
What I read was they were about a half a mile from the bridge and on the other side of the water.
Yes.
On private property. And I don't know how much all of that plays into it, but...
And I know that they did a lot of investigating that property and the person who owned that property.
Right.
And I don't think anything came to be. I did read, and not into detail, that they saw a shoe first. And then they knew that, they called the parents, okay, what kind of shoe did she have on? And they found a shoe and they found clothes kind of so the bodies were found.
Okay.
So the next day, on Wednesday the 15th, the autopsies begin. And at 3 p.m., the police confirm that the bodies are of Abbie and Liberty and that it is a double homicide. So that's where we're at in February. And the investigation continues. And it continues. And it continues with very little given to the public. And listening to true crime as I do and listening to the podcast, there's a reason for that.
Correct.
I mean, they don't want to give away, if they have a suspect, they don't want to give away pertinent information. But that also leads to a lot of speculation, and things get leaked and things get, I don't know. I mean, there were all kinds of crazy theories and how they were found and over-exaggerated stories, but it wasn't until July. So we're talking February to July that the police go ahead and offer their first sketch of a person of interest. And based on the little bit of video that they had, I'm not really sure how that comes to be. There were witnesses, not witnesses to, I saw a van or I saw somebody walking, but there was nothing. There must have been enough where they felt like with the grainy video that they could kind of give a sketch of who this person might be.
Right. And they said there was one witness, but I'm like, of the quote, he's called Guy on Bridge or Bridge Guy, BG. And a lot of the, what do you call those, like groups of people that are talking online, chat room type things, they refer to him as BG for Bridge Guy.
I mean, somebody else other than...
No, the guy in the video.
Okay.
So when they refer to him as theories of things, it's Bridge Guy. I was going somewhere with that, but I forgot. So go ahead.
So that's released. That's huge. I'm sure that brought in hundreds and hundreds of tips. And I think it excited people to the fact that we're going to get this solved. Somebody knows him. Somebody's seen him, blah, 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 blah. Oh, but no.
I was going to say.
Oh, but no. It takes a crazy, crazy turn in April of 2019. I mean,
oh my gosh.
We're talking the first sketch was 17. The second sketch they came out with was 19. And they said, based on new information, and they really wouldn't elaborate how, but they came up with a completely different sketch.
Oh, I don't think I ever saw that.
And it was a much younger individual.
Correct.
Now, I've seen video, like things on the internet and even like through podcasts where you can overlay the two pictures, and it's almost like a younger version of the first person that they had.
Okay.
Although I've seen several people's face overlay, and I don't think the people look alike, but when you do the overlay, I'm like, oh, that could be him. So
I know it's a very in the police caught a lot of flack for doing that, and I think the family was kind of taken back. I don't believe that
Flack for doing what? For releasing a different
picture a year and a half later. And I had listened to a couple podcasts where they had actually interviewed family members. I mean, this is 2 years later, so family members were being much more open. That they were surprised by that they weren't really given any kind of notice that was going to happen, and the police are just as much hush hush with them. Not that they don't feel like that the police aren't doing their job and that they aren't investigating, but that they are very tight-lipped.
Although part of me thinks that very possibly could be what they're telling us.
That's true.
I wouldn't be,
I don't know, just
over the top surprised if they knew a lot more. But they don't want everyone bombarding them for information.
Yeah.
So if they don't know, they can't tell, and they don't want to screw up anything. I don't know that, but that's just something that I thought of.
And interesting too, and I think that for people that are familiar with that area and familiar with the trail and familiar with the bridge, the police never really said the exact location that the body was found, which is smart. I mean, you wouldn't want that kind of being like some kind of popular
place to go.
Yeah,
right.
And I think people familiar with that area know the area that it was, but in a lot of things that you watch on TV, like Datelines and stuff like that, like they'll show like an aerial view and they'll be like pinpoint exactly, and the police wouldn't do that with that. And there were reasons why. A big question that I had, and it's been a while since I've listened to information about this case, was what if any was DNA recovered? So the stuff that I read last night was this. DNA, yes, it was recovered. They will not elaborate if it was just Abbie and Liberty's or if they have a suspect's DNA or the quality of the DNA.
Although it's, give or take, 2020. I find it hard to believe that bodies found within 24 hours that there wasn't some DNA. That's just something I struggle with. It there has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't see how there couldn't be something left behind.
So there's a database that we have here in the United States, and even as recent as 2 or 3 years ago, it's state to state, but some states now require, if you are a felon, you give your DNA, no matter what. So obviously, the perpetrator's DNA is not in that database. If they have good DNA, they could, put it through their system. So I don't know. The police have been very, very funny. And one of the quotes is like, sure, you're going to get DNA out of almost every crime scene, but whose DNA, the condition of the DNA, I don't know. This kind of gets to the interesting part of the theories and all this stuff. And I did listen to an excellent podcast, and for the life of me, I think Dateline might have been behind it. One of the bigger shows might have been behind it, but they did reveal, and the police did reveal in subsequent press conferences, that the killer did leave behind at the crime scene 3 signature markings, which is just crazy. So I had to kind of look that up and to what exactly signatures are. And I found an article from a retired FBI profiler. Her name was Mary Ellen O'Toole, and she had spoken on one of these podcasts, and she wasn't investigating the crime, but she can explain to us like what signature markings are. And they are basically markings. Let's see, how did I put it? Signatures are considered unique behaviors by the killer. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the actual killing. So you can kind of just use your mind. You can look back on like old scary movies or even old like things like the devil sick.
Right.
Like a pentagram or something.
Yeah, something like carved in a body or whatever. I'm not saying that those were the signatures.
A clown hat. I mean, something ridiculous. Just something that doesn't have anything necessarily to do with it, but it's left there as
Their
proof
mark.
that it's them.
It's
and
them.
they want credit.
Absolutely.
There were 3 of them at this particular case?
At least 3. At least 3 of them. So that opens up a whole Pandora's box of serial killer. I mean, why would they do that? And there was also, and it's not just speculation, that this killer staged a crime scene. And I was like, well, what the heck is that? So staging a crime scene basically is you're doing something deliberately to throw off the investigation. Maybe you leave clothes or you leave something in a completely different area, kind of to throw off the pattern, the path.
Right. It could be the positioning of the bodies.
The positioning of the bodies, anything. And this retired FBI profiler said typically when a perpetrator stages a crime scene, they know they're the people that they killed. So it's just
Really?
a psychological thing. And not that that's 100%, but that's a hint that this guy had knowledge of these girls.
Well, and that kind of leads me to my big question, because Tracy had brought this up when we had discussed it when originally we first heard about what happened to these girls. That's a small town. So I'm like, if he knows them.
Yeah. I looked there. It's a town of population of 3,000 people.
Yeah.
My kids' high school had 2,000 people, 2,200 actually. So that is a small town, like small.
And if he knew them, if that's if doing that is something that's staging is something that someone that's familiar with them, then I'm like.
And let me back up that they might have not have known him.
Right.
But
somebody does.
Was aware of, that it was more of a personal thing that he felt like with these signatures and all this stuff. It's almost like it's so gross and so creepy. And that's just kind of where the case just kind of stayed until recently. And that's where Tracy's going to come in. Okay. And just kind of offer maybe a little bit of insight, because there has been a lot of new things happening within the case within the last year.
Yeah.
So
and Kim did a great job going very chronologically. I'm not going to do a great job doing that, because as I was looking, it's really all over the place as far as suspects or information. I do want to do a couple of housekeeping before I forget.
You're going to clean my house?
I am not cleaning your house. The tip line is 765-822-3535. There is still a tip line open if anyone has any information. I think it's important that they keep that out in the public. And then they also have an email address, Abbie&Libby tip at CACOSHRF.com. And they prefer email, I think, just because it's easier to make sure they get all the information correctly. Another thing I wanted to say is that I was married to law enforcement for more than 20 years. I did not talk to anyone in law enforcement regarding this case. I wanted to make that very clear, because any information I got off the internet, like most other people. So I know nothing.
No inside knowledge.
I know nothing. And the officers I know are all very professional, and they wouldn't have told me anything had I asked. So it wasn't worth asking. So one of the main things that's come out is the Anthony Schatz accounts. There was a man named, what's his name? Keegan Klein, who was arrested 11 days after the murders in the Delphi area. He was arrested on 30 counts of child pornography. He is still in jail. There was not an immediate connection that was made public. But so he's still in jail. Recently it's come out, in the past year, that there was an account under the name of Anthony Schatz. And what
kind of account?
Social media accounts. I think it was Snapchat.
There was another one,
Instagram, and there's a new one that they asked about, Yubo, Y-U-B-O, or Yellow app.
And it's kind of like a chat.
Heard of those. It's like a chat app.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned an app called Monkey. I don't know about that one either, and I'm pretty in the know, so that was a little scary to me to know that these apps existed. But he created these profiles, and he used photos of a boy, probably about 20, is my guess, who was a male model.
Yeah, he was super cute.
Yeah.
Super cute. It hurts my heart that these little girls thought that this boy was talking to them and showing interest in them. Just the innocent and gullible behavior is scary. You know, my kids are now in their early 20s. I still think that they're gullible and innocent. So, you know what I mean? Like the thought of somebody
a 13 and a 14-year-old
doing that is just frightening, just so scary. I mean, you know, I think social media is great and it's horrible. And this is one of the examples. I think it's going to be where it's horrible. The internet is horrible. So Keegan, what they've released is Keegan is the last person to message Libby through the apps.
Pretending to be the cute guy. Well, okay, let me back up. This is where it all gets, it's so messy. The accounts that Keegan used was the last person to message Libby. Recently, in the past 2 weeks, there was a transcript released, not by the police, but by a podcast, pages and pages of information of an interview someone had with Keegan in jail. And he has stated that his dad also had access to the account, who lived in the house where the child pornography was found. They have said that 2 phones had accessed the Anthony Schott account that day. They didn't say whose 2 phones. But they know, right?
I'm sure they know. See, here's the thing. I'm sure they know so much more than they're telling us. And honestly, it's not our business, except for we all want to know because we want it to be solved. You know, Doug Carter is the superintendent, and he keeps saying, you know, we're not showing our hand. We're not going to show everything that we have. He said the other day, and I wrote it down because what was it? Well, I'll come up on it at some point. Actually, we know about you a lot. Hold on. We know about you a lot. Sleep well.
What are your yeah.
Now, that is very much a message that he's sending to someone personally watching it. You know, I think I should have a master's in Dateline. I should state that. So everything I'm looking at.
Then I have a PhD.
I'm hearing everything. Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm still in the undergrad.
Yes.
I've been through that a lot. I mean, like, I'm listening and watching all this, and I'm hearing John Quiones, you know, or Keith Morrison, you know, yes. So those things are real. And what I got through doing all of this was, you know, I watch those shows as a weird, I'm going to say entertainment because I don't know what else to call it. And that sounds gross that these people's lives are our entertainment. But I want to know. I want to know. It's interesting. I want to know the process of it.
And especially as parents.
As parents. Exactly.
Back to the lead guy that's kind of the spokesperson, Doug
Carter.
I really like him.
Yeah.
He's very, I mean, and this is just, you know, from an outside perspective, I have no idea what his relationship is, you know, with the families or whatever. He truly seems like his heart is 100% in getting this solved and getting this done.
Yeah.
So.
And I think this is one of those, you know, they talk about career cases. That
it keeps him up at night. I guarantee it's taken years off of it. Yeah. I mean, definitely.
So, okay. So I was talking about him. The reason I'm going back and forth is that there's so much interconnection between all of it, or it appears that way. There was someone named James Chadwell, 42, who was arrested in 2021 for the kidnapping of a 9-year-old.
In that area?
Not far from there.
Okay.
I think within like a half an hour from there. They found her in his basement. She had been abused, beaten.
Was she alive?
She was alive.
Okay.
He has already pled guilty to all counts.
What would be, is there
so
any...
that was an immediate thought of, was it him?
Yeah, yeah.
So here's where I don't know the connection. And I don't want to call it a conspiracy theory, but it is a theory that involves multiple people. So I think that might technically be a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's hear it.
And I'm going to go with that, and then we'll come back. So we have Bridge Guy.
Okay.
We don't know who he is.
Right.
We have Keegan Klein, his dad, Anthony. Or no, his dad's not Anthony. I said that because that was the other one's name. I don't know his dad's name. I have it somewhere. Tony. Oh, it is Tony.
Okay.
So we have those 3. We have this James Chadwell who's in the area, child pornography. I'm afraid that it's some sort of totally revolting ring of dark web
Predators.
Child pornography is huge, and my fear is that it was people pay big money to see horrible things being done, and I don't want to say a whole lot more than that. But
Couldn't you find them online?
Well, no, I'm not looking.
Not you, but I'm saying, couldn't the investigators say?
Maybe not. I don't know.
I'm telling you, I've watched enough of those behind the web.
Yeah.
The ones that really know what they are doing.
Correct.
I'm telling you, they keep themselves hidden.
They pay with Bitcoin. There's no tracing.
Their IP addresses aren't where they. I mean, all this technical stuff.
As much as we know, there's a lot we don't, I think.
Okay.
And that's where it gets to the parts where I don't want to know. Like, I felt so gross, like even reading some of the theories on this. Because, again, none of these are my own. These are just things that I've put together that other people are saying. But there were a couple of suspects, and I don't want to mention other people's names because they've either been cleared or there's not enough information. A couple of area meth dealers, and it's suspected that they were cooking meth in the area. The girls saw them. They killed them.
Yeah.
That's a big money. That is a big money thing. So I don't know. One very interesting theory is the ex-mayor, Sean Evans. Many people.
What?
He's a young man. Many people have suspected that it's someone with ties to the community who is keeping the information from coming out. Like there's big money involved or big reputations involved.
Especially in a small town, you find that a lot.
You do.
When there's an infamous murder that however many years later, it comes around that it was some kind of political thing.
Yeah. And I think there's, you could put a lens on it and point it in any direction and make it look like that person. But there's like video of Doug Carter having a press conference and the mayor is over like here or whatever. And as he's talking, the people are like narrating this video and coming in. But like he's saying, have you seen anyone who's shaved in the past few days? And they show pictures of this mayor a few days before with facial hair, and now he's shaved.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, yeah. So he doesn't not look like the sketches. And he was reelected. And after his reelection, he resigned from that position and took the position as the prosecutor. And some people are saying he did that so that he can monitor the evidence and keep it from coming to light. I would think that there is enough law enforcement entities involved that there's too many eyes looking, that it doesn't make sense that someone would get away with it. Maybe initially that was the idea. And that is my thought, is that they have a pretty good idea of who it is, but I think it's bigger than these two girls, and they're not solving it because they need to know where
they need
who
to
else
know
is involved.
Everything.
I think it makes the most sense to me. That's what I'm going to say.
No.
It makes the most sense to me that it is something bigger, because it's been 5 years.
That's a long time for a family to wait.
They've got the person last contact in there. They've got video and audio. It doesn't make sense.
They've got signatures.
And if you see this
on
guy
those girls
that's in the jail, he doesn't look like a brain trust. Like, I refuse to accept that he's been interviewed by the state police, local police, and FBI and hasn't cracked. I mean, he looks like he would crack for a candy bar. Not judging, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
That's not something that I can swallow. I can't. It just doesn't make sense. And I know that I'm trying to make sense of something senseless. So,
well, that's how cases get solved. And there are so many conspiracies. There's all these sleuths, everyday people that study this stuff. And look, if you Google, the ex-mayor and pictures of him and pictures of the suspect, it's eerie.
Right.
I mean, and I know that a lot of people look like a lot of people, that type of thing, but that's how cases get solved. And it's maybe the most minuscule thing. It may be the way that somebody glances at the camera when there's a press conference that cues in something's not right.
Right.
I mean, these guys,
and they said they're still
they
getting
know what they're
30
doing.
tips per week.
Exactly.
Come in 5 years later. That's pretty incredible that many people are still trying to help. Now, it also jams up,
It complicates it more.
Complicates it. But like 5 years later, they're asking for anyone contacted by Anthony Schott's profile to contact them. That again makes me think, who else? Like what else? Who else are we looking for?
Like who else might have had access
Been involved.
to that particular fake account?
I know the idea that those girls communicated with him, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether it was him, whether it was his dad, whether it was another creeper on that site, they all work together. They all help each other stay anonymous. Like you said, Tracy, their thrill is pictures. And, I heard so many things about the police that wouldn't specifically, that off camera or off the record that said that, and I don't like talking about this kind of stuff to think that I'm glorifying it or anything, but that it was a crime scene like no other, that it was the kind of crime scene that would keep you up at night, that this just wasn't a simple, not that any murder is simple, but it wasn't just a basic type of strangulation, that there were some heavy things going on in that crime scene.
And that is part of the theory that this was recorded to be sold on the internet.
Oh gosh.
It's so gross.
It is. It's
to think that people
so
are,
tragic.
I saw a thing on TV. You know how like they put up like public service announcements type things. There was one the other day that said internet porn or what, porn gets more hits than Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, everything combined and like times 5. And I'm not dogging on porn. If you like it and you're consenting adults, that's one thing. But I'm talking about the scary, gross stuff that people are seeking out.
Yeah, keep in mind that a lot of that stuff is maybe done without permission and done in a very predatory way.
Yeah.
And
And so, if by not telling us, they're able to take down a bigger ring of people, again, not our business, but I'm interested. I'm interested in knowing, and I want it to be over for the parents. I saw an interview with the grandmother, and I think she must have lived there part-time. I don't know that I've heard that, but I think that there was it's a small town. Again, grandma lives down the street.
And there was divorce, and there was
Right.
remarriage, and there were grandparents that took care. So it was just a whole, a lot of different people in these girls' lives.
Right. And I saw a recent interview where she was talking about the social media stuff. And she said, like she feels like she let her down because she didn't protect her from it. And she said, we talked about it. She said, she watched crime shows. She knew that there were predators out there, and she knew that people pretended to be other people.
You feel safe when you're just
right in your room.
When you're in your room and you're by yourself and you are somebody. They are professionals.
Yeah.
They know how to get in those young kids' minds. I don't care how much you talk to your children, nobody's safe from it.
No. And I think that's one of the things that keeps this case in front of everyone is that every parent, it could have been them. I mean, we've all had that conversation with our kids.
Oh.
We all think our kids understand the gravity of it, and they're kids.
Right.
They don't understand the gravity of it.
And if this is in our backyard in Indiana, I mean, we live in Indiana. You think it's, you think it's safe. You think you're safe. Another thought that it's kind of off the subject, and I know we're kind of wrapping up, but something that came, again, I say I watch things on TV, and there's a documentary out right now on Playboy. And it talked about, and it's also dark, that some of the things that these girls were not necessarily participating under free will.
Oh, the whole Hugh Hefner. Oh,
so
yes.
The whole Hugh Hefner thing. And they talked about how his big thing was taking these innocent girl next door. That's what the men wanted. That's what they were paying for, was these innocent girls and then making them not innocent.
Ugh.
And
drugging them
stuck with me when I saw this, because these girls look, some girls at 14 on Instagram, they look very old. They wear a lot of makeup. They're very developed, and their clothes are very, the pictures that I'm seeing of Libby and
innocent,
Abbie aren't
small town girls.
Yes. And I am just thinking, does all of that play into where we are with this case?
Well, have they just left it that they're continuing the investigation? Like,
Well, this week is when they asked for more information, or last
the
week.
big podcasters that I listen to, Billy Jensen, Paul Holes, like legitimate, people that Paul Holes was behind the Golden State. Right. I mean, he helped
Are you
solve
saying
that
we're
crime.
not legitimate? Because I'm wondering what you meant
we
by
totally
that.
aren't.
What?
Are you saying we're not legitimate?
Oh, we are. Hey, okay, yeah, we're not Paul Holes.
I'm taking away your PhD.
Anyways, they've all put stuff on their different platforms that if you had any contact with, so that there's something going on. I mean, definitely. I feel
They're
like
looking for that. I feel like they're looking for that one little thing. They
know.
need that one little nugget. I feel like they have all this stuff, and they have
lot of
like
circumstantial
big
things
treasure
that-
boxes, and they need the key.
it
Who
will get
has the
solved.
key?
It really will. It will get solved.
I do believe
It's
it will.
just, but
It makes me sick. I mean, I talked to you guys last summer or summer before where I said I was going to go and just sit in the coffee shop and listen because it's so close. It's within an hour and a half or whatever of here, and I'm like, I need to know what happened to these girls. I need to go hang out there. And
well, and just that town. I mean, it's forever.
that's it.
Until it's solved,
Right.
And until they figure out. So
And even then, that'll be what it is.
I know.
Well, thank you for getting me up to speed. I followed it from what was released on the news, but it was one of those things like you were telling me. It was so sporadic that a year would go by and all of a sudden it would be back in the news. And I'd think, well, what have they been doing
I
for
know.
this year? So I'm not saying they're not working on it because I'm sure it has consumed their lives and they are definitely working as hard as they can. But I had forgotten about it since it, wasn't my children. So when it came back, I thought, oh my gosh, this poor family, they're still
Yeah, they deserve for this to be
over.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy, do you want to read the tip line again, just in case any of the listeners wanted to?
Close to my notebook.
Have it in their back pocket just in case.
Second. Sorry, got
Sorry.
lots of notes in my book.
Well, you don't have to.
All right. We'll put it on when we post it, we will post it with that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't
we'll
know
do
where it
both
is.
the phone and the email that they had. So thank you so much for listening to
I
this.
found it.
Oh, go ahead.
Tip line is 765-822-3535.
Okay. And we will post that when we post the podcast. But thank you for getting me up to speed. And I hope the next time we record, we can at least have an update or have this completely solved for everyone's sake. So thank you for listening and join us next time on Up for Grabs.